The new norm.
Good afternoon, Jim Graham with ABC News. The Premier is again urging Victorians to get tested for coronavirus after a
How intense was it?
So we've just had our brains scraped. I think we will get a text message if negative and a phone call if positive. So it really wasn't that bad. If you're feeling you've got any symptoms at all, go and get tested. Do the right thing. Cameras rolling, sound rolling, action. Cullingmore Creations, in association with Filmonic Melbourne, presents COVID Creatives, the documentary. A unique insight into the lives of some interesting and extremely diverse creatives.
Helping Wendy file the accounts?
You came to the right place. Let's go.
Blood everywhere, Hamish. Oh,
I've got a band-aid.
take me to emergency.
Oh, smile. Why can't I stop thinking about it? Like 1,000 November.
The snow has gone!
Why?
You!
Kate, I am a gentleman.
My theory is, as the rain descends, love is restored to family and friends.
Remember, keep safe, keep your distance.
Hello, it's here. COVID Creatives, the documentary. This is it. It's happening. I thought it would be great because this is part of Melbourne Fringe Pants Off 2020 that we had a representative from Melbourne Fringe to welcome you all. So we've got the lovely Carly Findlay from Melbourne Fringe, the Access and Inclusion Coordinator. Over to you, Carly.
Hi Andrew, so I work at Melbourne Fringe and we have made a festival. It's happening in November from the 12th to 29th of November. It looks a lot different to how we thought it would look at the start of the year. We had a number of iterations of the festival and we have come up with one now that works. Most of the festival is happening on our Digital Fringe platform, which means that you don't have to have pants on to watch the shows. You can watch the shows.
I'm not actually wearing any pants.
I am. You can watch the shows from your home or from wherever you are in a socially distanced space, from across the world if you want to, on your computer or your tablet or your phone through our Digital Fringe platform. At the start of the year, we didn't have a Digital Fringe platform. We've developed this for the festival. We have over 250 events, which is really exciting. The accessibility features that we have include Auslan interpreting, captions, and some sensory performances as well. And also, many of our events, if not all of our events, are wheelchair accessible if you're watching them in a wheelchair accessible space since March this year, and I think that you're going to enjoy the festival.
What an introduction and what a way to start. So without further ado, let's meet all the creatives, including actors, producers, filmmakers, dancers, musicians and cruise ship entertainers. We discuss through a series of interviews, mostly on Zoom because of the infamous Melbourne lockdown, their mental health, creative adaptations, online transitions, and the ever-changing rules of 2020. Can these creatives survive the struggle, adopt a COVID-safe plan, and remain optimistic, not knowing what the future of their creative industry holds? Let's meet them and find out! COVID Creatives. I started dialogues with over 60 creatives from all over the world, including England, Ireland, Germany, Holland, and right here in Australia. These interviews took place from August through to November 2020 and pivoted on 3 questions. The first question is, what do you do and what is your creative niche?
this place for a battlefield. This is where fate has led us. Bring me my horse. My horse. If we win today, we'll have many horses to choose from.
My name's Joseph Milson. I'm an actor. I've been an actor for close to 30 years, earning a living. Film, television, theatre, radio, voiceover, teaching drama, writing a bit of screenplays, but mainly acting. My job is to creatively to interpret scripts written by other people and make sure they're not shit, and that people will pay money to watch them in whatever form that is, which sounds simple but can be really difficult.
I'm a psychologist and have been working with creatives and artists and performers as a specialty for around 5 years now, as it's a high-risk mental health group. And I used to work in the arts, so this is a really important thing that I'm passionate about working in, and have been so lucky to help so many artists over the years, and was approached by Fringe a few years ago to work with them both on workshops for artists and for staff. And now this year, I'm lucky enough to put together this wellbeing guide that's now out in the open, and so great to have it out there. And really, I wanted to take what I know about mental health, what I know about psychology, and how we can use those theories specifically for Fringe artists to help them make great work and to stay feeling great too.
It's great. It's available to download on the Melbourne Fringe website. I recommend everybody does it if you're creating, not just for Melbourne Fringe, but in life. The mantra for my project is talk, create, sleep. And I know that you're a big advocate for sleep, and I just wanted you to elaborate on that if you could.
Sleep is so important for everyone. It's a time when we renew both physiologically, our body, but also psychologically, a time where we've been pushed to our mental capacity. It's a time where we can really renew and give ourselves the capacity to create again. And especially for Fringe artists, if you think about a Fringe festival, it's a time when you are often pushed to the limits. You are incredibly busy. It's incredibly, you're really pushed to your capacity during a festival. So it's so important to make sure the sleep is happening then, because to be creative takes a huge amount of cognitive power.
You talked about going through COVID, it's okay to not create.
Yeah, we have a capacity, and one part of that is what we call the surge capacity. So when you're under high stress, like something like a global pandemic, or lost your job, or all of the above, you are pushed to that capacity, and the body psychologically and physiologically pumps out adrenaline, pumps out things to kind of keep you going, but it has a capacity, it has a threshold. And when you're trying to push yourself to continue to be creative at a time when your brain is quite literally unable to think in abstract ways, unable to think creatively, it creates a lot of stress. And until you replenish and renew, that's just going to be incredibly challenging and perhaps incredibly anxiety provoking to continue to try and expect the same things from your brain when it's in a very different circumstance.
Great. So just a message for all the creatives out there that aren't creating at the moment. It's okay. It's completely natural.
You've got to do what you need to do right now. Expect less of yourself, because this is a incredibly abnormal situation, and therefore it's incredibly normal to need a break and to do things differently. And whatever you're choosing to do right now, if you're choosing to adapt and pivot and push through because that's the kind of capacity you have, great. But if this is a time when you're choosing to maybe put energy and time into other aspects of your life, be it self-care or family or rest, then that's really important too.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary and thyme. Remember me to one who lives there. He wants once was a true love of mine.
My name is Mali van der Bijl, and I am an actress-singer. I'm originally from South Africa. Then I moved to Melbourne right before the pawpaw struck the fan. So I just moved to Melbourne in February. Musical theatre is the big dream. What has inspired people more from feedback that I've got is probably the singing.
I do modelling. You know, nude modelling? Is that what you want me to call you? Daddy.
Hello, my name's Sarah Lamberg. I'm a filmmaker. I started off as an actor when I was this small, and these days I make films.
My name is Murray Rain, and I'm a Melbourne-based puppeteer. A puppeteer that specialises in marionettes, and I mainly perform on cruise ships. So I'm a cruise ship entertainer that jiggles dollies.
Well, I am an actor, a writer and independent theatre producer. I mainly tend to spend most of my time creating solo works and then touring them around to various festivals. The Will to Be, I wrote that last year. I premiered it at Melbourne Fringe last year, 2019, and then I took it to Adelaide Fringe at the beginning of this year.
My name's Desert Rain Magpie. So the Deadly Collective is a concept for emerging Aboriginal artists in Australia to get some exposure out there with different client bases and to share each artist's unique skills and talents. My skill is I'm an Indigenous weaver.
I'm Andrew Pollard, and I'm an actor and a writer. My main writing projects are British pantomimes. It's a take on classic fairy tale where men dress as women, women dress as men, lots of gags, slapstick, comedy, singing. In Greenwich, in London, I write and direct and play the Dame. I've been doing that there for, I think it's 16 years now. And then I write other pantos for mainly smaller repertory theatres. To me, a panto is like a party. You're trying to get everybody to have fun.
No twanky! No twanky!
Sounds like a customer. Oh, it's the police. The donkey was already limping. Oh, I've just had a... Have I? Yeah, I just had a really good idea. How would you lot like to be in the Wishy Washy fan club?
I'm Callum Arnott, and I am an actor based in England, Manchester specifically. I've only just recently woken up. I've always been a bit of a jack of all, really, rather than saying I've got a real niche. I've made a career of having spread myself evenly across the creative spectrum, from photography through to theatre, television, bits of radio, street theatre, directing, fight choreographer, teach fairly regularly as well. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of a jack of all there rather than a specific niche.
Hello, you filthy f***s. It's October the 7th, and we're all riding Daddy Dan's second wave. And we're drifting down the roadmap to nowhere. Just remember, cluster might be the new moist, but all hope is not lost. This is your mantra, Victoria. We might not have our freedom, but Queensland do. So if you want your freedom, just log on to www.realestate.com.au and search properties in Queensland. I know I am. Thank you for listening.
My name's Carly Ellis. I'm an actor in Melbourne.
Hello, I'm Dave Lojek from Germany. I'm a film producer, director, editor, and distributor. And I'm a kinoid. I go to kino cabarets. I organize kino cabarets that are international filmmaking workshops and festivals.
My name is Anthony Kieran. I'm the General Manager of Actors Centre Australia at the present time. I was previously, not so long ago, the General Manager at Event Cinemas nationally for film festivals, Australian cinema and bespoke programming.
So I am Nick Larkin. I call myself the Chief Dreamer, the executive producer
for a company called MEI, or Millennium Entertainment International.
My name is Clark Joseph Edwards, and I am a puppeteer.
A working puppeteer?
A working puppeteer, yes. Mainly puppetry is my niche.
Hello, my name's Kerry Ashcroft. I'm an actor and a puppeteer, and I run a theatre company called Tiny Light from here in Oxford in the United Kingdom, making work for babies and children. And we've just come back from Iceland, where we performed our show Pop. These are two of the puppets. The International Puppetry Festival in the north of Iceland, and amazingly, despite a pandemic and reduced audience numbers and increased safety measures, they really made it work, and it was amazing to be performing live again after months and months of nothing.
I'm Charlie Mycroft. I'm an actor, a flight director, a producer, a voiceover artist, all of which are very quiet at the moment.
I am a London-based theatre maker and puppeteer for adult audience. My puppet is usually life-size with quite realistic face, and also often the puppet face is cast from my face, but when I paint it, it looks different. But what I do is I perform with a puppet alongside, and I am visible. Also, I have a character, and then we interact with each other. Often the puppet character is a ghost or just an illusion, and the theme could be really dark, like lost memories.
Head of Performing Arts at Prahran High School, and I'm the president of Drama Victoria, and Drama Victoria is the state association for drama educators in Victoria. So our organisation looks after primary, secondary and tertiary drama education professionals, and yeah, where we run workshops, develop resources, run conferences, advocacy, and just overall support for drama teachers wherever they need it.
Everything I do, I think, like everyone, is based on fear that I'm irrelevant. I do anything I can that involves telling stories. I like to tell stories. And I like affecting people, making them feel something, sending them away from an experience somehow in some way, shape or form better than they were when they came into it.
Hi, I'm Dennis Menahan. I'm an actor. I've been an actor for a long time. I've been lucky enough before 2020 to have done nothing but performing for 20 odd years. I've made my income through a mosaic of theatre, film, television, corporate acting, like I work for a corporate training company who use actors to demonstrate workplace behaviour, singing telegrams, kids entertainment, like a whole mosaic of things.
I am an actor, and my creative niche, gosh, good question. Just say musical theatre.
I'm an actress and voice artist. At the moment, I'm doing only voice because that's all we can do. However, I'm doing a fair amount of it. In fact, to be honest, COVID has had some advantages.
I'm Francois White. I'm a professional photographer and director based in Melbourne. I mean, in photography, I do a lot of event photography and a lot of portraits.
My name's Ian. I'm the owner-director of Ian Nisbet Vocal Coaching here in Melbourne. And so we're a singing school, essentially. We help students, obviously, with their singing skills, usually in the context of musical theatre. So most of the time they're preparing for auditions or they're in shows and they have to work on that kind of material. And we normally have two physical locations, but of course we're 100% online at the moment because COVID's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works.
I'm James Cutler and I live in Melbourne, Victoria. So I am a performer and director, theatre maker, and was most recently performing in School of Rock, the musical. I was in the ensemble, and I also understudied Dewey Finn. I honestly can say, without a doubt, I've never known a more taxing role in all of musical theatre than Dewey Finn. It's one of those shows where he's on stage the whole time.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Saradine, and I am the artistic director of the Melbourne Shakespeare Company. Pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of outdoor theatre, predominantly comedies, but we were kind of working on a few other projects and have a few other things lined up for 2020. We also teach workshops and run school workshops and lots of things within the community, all to do with Shakespeare.
I'm Sally McLean. I'm an actor and a director and a writer based in Melbourne, Australia. Currently, my creative niche is doing the web series Shakespeare Republic, which has been going since 2015 and is pretty much been my life through lockdown this time round as well, with a new season for the series. My creative niche, I'm also a writer, so I also write drama and feature films and other such things.
Hey, he's there. Marcel is connecting to audio. Yes.
Yes. Nice. I'm an actor. Next to it, I write.
Spend an hour doing sensory work. Spend an hour doing character work. I need a space. I need a motherfucking schedule. Midnight, start at midnight. Start at midnight. You'll feel inspired. You're going to work on your own. Every day it's the Olympics for us. I can't tell you this enough. People go to New York and LA, I feel excited. But no, motherfucker, nothing changed. And most of you will give up. Get it right. No one can give you that but you. And you're the only one that can take it away from yourself.
Hi, I'm Peter Carlos. How are you all? What I do is I teach acting for a living. And I encourage people to get up and work as hard as they should. That's a big part of it. It's not just teaching acting. It's like, get up, get out there, make it happen, do something. Look, as far as teachers, there's three amazing teachers that were in my life. There's Stella Adler, Mark Marno, who was at the Lee Strasberg Institute. I was with Mark for about 8 years. I was with Stella herself for 3 years in the mid to late 80s. And then a guy that brought all this together was an amazing actor. His name is Barry Primus. So Barry was very good at making the skills you learn as an actor, making them practical.
What does it mean to be the best at what you do? Who decides you are the best? I studied to become a lawyer even though I dreamt of making films. Growing up in an immigrant family, being the best meant studying to gain a respectable profession and make an honest living. But while I was studying, doctors discovered a tumor between my lungs and heart. Instantly, my priorities shifted, and I was told that I might not have much time left.
Well, I'm a filmmaker based in Sydney, Australia, and I've been making films since I was about 13. So yes, I did actually have another career as a solicitor, and I studied to be a lawyer for many years, worked as a lawyer, and somewhere along the line realized, you know what, I think making films is actually the most important thing for me. Yeah, so I guess I started out as an actor when I was a kid, and I realized that I wanted to be behind the camera, directing weird, wonderful, quirky, out there kind of things. So I guess my niche it kind of varies between a layer of comedy that you're not quite sure if it's supposed to be funny or serious, and then somewhere else which is kind of weird, wonderful, midnight movie, experimental extravaganza. And somewhere along the line, I kind of started making more reality-based media, and then now I'm kind of circling back to making more scripted, interesting, weird and wonderful dramas again.
Well, my name is Josh Hayes. I'm a freelance graphic artist. Examples of my work will appear now. I mainly specialise in branding for tech startups and various other internet ventures. I've also dabbled in advertising, print media and some illustration. Whilst being self-employed, I have since branched out to acting and creative writing.
My role is Head of Education Development for the Australian Shakespeare Company,
And I think my creative niche is taking the big ideas and characters within Shakespeare and making them as accessible and fun and engaging for young people as possible. So as young as 5 up to teenagers and then into adults as well.
Creatively, I make films. I'm a filmmaker. I love to write. And I've just started doing some animation.
Any news on Tent Man?
Nobody responded to the picture, and I can't find his face in the archives. You're a favourite for the 100 free in Glasgow.
It will be if you can sort my shoulder out.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
This is wonderful.
My name is Philip Evans, also Philip Hayden. What do? Like many artists, I do many things. I'm an actor. I run an acting studio called the Howard Fine Acting Studio. I'm also a sometime director and sometime producer, and I used to run a theatre festival for 4 years. My creative niche, I guess, is being a jack of all trades, but I'm looking to perhaps reduce that down to being maybe 3 core things as we move forward.
Hi, my name is Matt Johns and I'm a filmmaker based in Manchester in the UK. So I'm a writer, director, DP and editor. So I make my own films, shorts, dramas, that kind of stuff, developing a feature. But for bread and butter, I'm a freelance writer, director, DP and editor. So yeah, I shoot stuff, I cut stuff, I light stuff, I just do things.
So I'm a composer and sound designer. I started out as a musician and over the years working in theatre, moved into sound designing for theatre, composing, mainly for theatre, but sometimes get asked to do it for film. I've been doing music for about 20 years and composing and sound design for maybe 5 years. What's my niche? I love taking original audio recordings. I love doing location recordings. Nothing like using original sort of raw footage when you sound design. Obviously, sometimes you have to use stock footage, but I'm really into very original sounds.
My name is Mei Ling, and I'm normally a filmmaker. I write the scripts, and normally I produce my own films, and I direct it. This year has been very slow. My parents, they're living in Shanghai, and so they got impacted by COVID way before Australia, when Australia was still living in that false optimism of it won't touch us. And I lived through SARS when I was in medical school. So there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of post-traumatic distress got brought up.
Hi, I'm Murray Enders. I'm the lead videographer for C2 Films, Australia's premier wedding videography business, amongst other things. I've got a Sony a7S III with a Zeiss 50mm f1.4 prime, eye tracking autofocus.
Look at that.
So I've got a $7,000 webcam, basically.
Amazing. And you, Adrian?
And I'm Adrian, and I'm the creative producer of C2 Films. I got the old version for the moment. I've got the A7R3 and the Sigma 35 f1.2.
What we do as wedding videographers is capture a client's wedding, all the way from getting dressed in the morning till the end of the party, if that's what they want captured. Sometimes they prefer to cut it off a little earlier before it gets a little too hairy. We specialize in client interface because what we've learned in the industry, you could be the best videographer in the world, you could have the fanciest camera, but if they don't enjoy their day, they're not going to enjoy their video.
So I'm Shu Lee. I live in Australia, Sydney. I'm a retail assistant officially, but in my spare time I'm a musician and a filmmaker. I write music, play the piano, and use that in my filmmaking. And my filmmaking, I make short films mostly, and I like to make experimental, environmental films related to memory and family, things like that.
I do lots of things. Over the years, I've been working in the arts for nearly 30 years. Everything from an actor to a tour manager, an event manager, coordinator, producer, a drama tutor, drama teacher, and everything in between to pay the bills. A casting assistant for casting directors around Melbourne. I've been a third AD, everything within the arts and festivals and events and international and local. So people are my thing. Company management, people and logistics, I would say, in a nutshell, in the arts.
You don't see color. You don't see me. You don't see the value in our faces when you say we don't see race or ethnicity. See, now I'm othered. You othered me. But in this quarter, this daughter,
this son,
non-binary kid is sharing the solution. Time for revolution. I need you to see me. If you could see me win the game, I could be the next Australia's own. If you could readjust your frame, I've got talents to be shown. I've got a world to conquer. I'm getting stronger. I'm holding to my destiny. I breathe the air of this land, and I need you to see me.
My name is Vidya Bacon, in bold. I say it like Lydia Bacon. Earlier this year, I was performing as Catherine Parr, the Australian tour of 60 musical. What the hell, dreams actually do come true. But I also do a whole range of other stuff. And on my website, you can click around and see my work as like a musical theatre composer or my other work as actor, singer. Yeah.
What is your creative niche?
I think it's just my voice. And my voice is... I've realised, I didn't realise this at the beginning of doing this thing that is the arts, but it is kind of different just from who I am and my experience and the way that I walk around in the world. It just is really different to a lot of people who work in particularly musical theatre. And so I found that just like being me, it sounds so wanky and lame, but it's true. Just like getting more comfortable with just me. That seems to be something people really want to listen to. I don't like go out of my way to make statements, or I've been called in, especially the last few weeks, a leader. Like a lot of people are like, we love the way that you're taking the responsibility of being a leader in this time. But I have never thought about that. It's never been a conscious thing. It's always just me saying something that I feel in my heart, and I just am talking, and people seem to really listen to that. And I just think that is really to my experience that is different.
So my whole career, 40 years, has been as an actor in the industry. Along the way, I've also worked with schools and education format through the business as well. And for the previous 3 years, virtually, I was a member of the National Theatre in London, touring throughout the UK and internationally the production of Warhorse.
I'm Richard Stott. I'm a comedian, I'm an actor. I'm from Yorkshire, but I'm based in London. I actually worked in the theatre industry for 10 years, behind the scenes and as an actor, not that successfully as an actor, because what I was finding is I was having trouble getting cast because I have a disability of my left hand. Looks completely different to my right hand. It's a visible disability. And this, you know, you start getting the feeling that people are put off by this when casting things. So I moved into writing my own work. I started writing a one-man show called Wretched, because the definition of wretched is a thing of poor quality, and it was about, you know, defining yourself as a thing of poor quality, obviously tongue-in-cheek. Now, the further I wrote it, the more it started lending itself to the medium of stand-up comedy. And I went to the Edinburgh Festival with it as a stand-up comedy show with some theatrical aspects woven into it. And it was a show about disability in the arts, growing up with a disability, and using it as a jumping off point to more sort of like social commentary. And never really looked back, really went down the stand-up road because I love it. You don't have to deal with actors. You don't have to deal with, you know, having to rely on other people. You've just got yourself, your notes. You can be as good as you want to be. You can be as slightly tipsy as you want to be on stage. You know, you're not letting anybody else down but yourself. I really felt I was taking control of my career. So we did another show at the Edinburgh Fringe, and that got great reviews. And we got second best joke at the Edinburgh Fringe that year. So that was a surprise to me because I'm not much of a one-liner writer.
Can you remember the joke?
Yeah, it was somebody stolen my antidepressants. I don't know who they are, but I hope they're happy.
I am Laura Watts. I work for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I am a wigs and makeup artist.
Here we are. Wikipedia, a site that you can trust. It says the Royal Shakespeare Company is a major British theatre company based in Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire, which is where you are. And the company employs over 1,000 staff and produces over 20 productions a year.
So we are quite a niche department. We are a production department, so we produce all our own wigs. We are a running department, so we run the shows, and also maintenance.
So hello, I'm Dickon Tyrrell, and I'm an actor. I've been an actor now for almost 30 years, and a director, and I teach acting as well, I suppose. So if I had to teach an actor to do one thing and be clear about one thing, to have absolute specificity, it would be their objective. Why are you there, and what do you want? So, and those two things have to burn. Otherwise, it's very confusing. Also, your objective needs to be very simple, a very basic, recognizable human need. So the story I always love to talk about is Silence of the Lambs. And Anthony Hopkins had loads of, you know, he wants this, he wants that, he wants that. And eventually with his acting coach, they boil it down to he just wants to be friends with Clarice. And that's it. So that as actors, don't overthink it. It's something very simple. So that's the advice. And that's what I've learned over the years as well. So I always try to remind myself to follow that through as well.
People think working in the performing arts is all about the glamour. It's really not. This is a tough industry. We ask a lot from our people. They give themselves to this work, and that takes its toll. We skew above the national averages for anxiety, for depression, for suicide. So the idea of moving into the preventative space came about.
The Arts Wellbeing Collective is an Arts Centre Melbourne-led initiative funded by WorkSafe Victoria's WorkWell Mental Health Improvement Fund.
I'm Cam and I currently work as the Research and Engagement Coordinator for the Arts Wellbeing Collective. The Arts Wellbeing Collective is an Arts Centre Melbourne initiative to promote positive mental health and wellbeing in the performing arts industry. So the collective is for everyone working in the performing arts. Everything that we do is for all people across the entire industry. So whatever kind of performing arts workplace or role that you might have, the Arts Wellbeing Collective is for you. A little bit about me. So I've worked in the performing arts for the last 17 years or so, both here in Melbourne and in my hometown of Perth. I have what a friend of mine calls a portfolio career because I've done a lot of different roles and I've seen the industry from many different sides. I've worked in arts administration, touring, marketing, catering and events as a mech in a lot of different front of house roles, including managing the front of house department at the South Bank Theatre for a number of years. I'm also a writer, especially of poems, and am an intermittent drag performer and MC with some of my queer, trans and non-binary mates. So what do we do in the Arts Wellbeing Collective? So the Arts Wellbeing Collective is a tailored, prevention-focused mental health program to help address the unique challenges of the performing arts. And it truly is a collective. If we want to change the culture, systems, structures and ways we do things across the industry, the only way to do so is together.
Hi, my name is Ruth Jones and I am a dancer and choreographer and now visual artist.
Hi, my name is Mia. I am an actor.
Camera's rolling.
Camera's rolling.
Sounds good. Clap.
I'm Ryan Hawke and I'm an actor from Melbourne. So I am predominantly in stage shows and my niche is comedy.
Can you give us a bit of a Toad impression?
Oh yeah, I suppose. Oh, hello animals! There you go.
I was literally walking through Sunshine the other day and I saw your very famous cow.
My name's John Kelly and I just have to say that one wag went on social media called it I had to respond by saying actually an artist, an Italian artist actually candied and sold it for the equivalent weight in gold and did very well. He's in numerous museums across the world. So as an artist I've been variously described as an awkward bugger by an Irish writer. Also in the Guangzhou Triennale I was described as a free radical. Cross a lot of boundaries in terms of media, from sculpture to printmaking to painting, of course, and then they break down into monumental sculpture, etc. And of course, writing has been a part of that as well.
Christina Tedesco Kelly. Mainly I do installation, or I have done installation using textiles, but at the moment I'm concentrating on drawing. I love drawing with pen.
Welcome to our Sash World. I'm Sarah. I'm Tash. And together we are Sash.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Hamilton. I am an actress, singer, puppeteer, and also the co-founder and director of a children's entertainment company called Sash Entertainment. I have tried to keep my career as diverse as possible to stay in employment. So creative niche is entertainment.
What are you wearing, Joe?
I'm wearing a dressing gown.
Environmental death. Well, good job, I'll be dead. No tree will I plant, no hole in our branch. Call me a racist, average, never don't understand. My opinions on equality have a rather fascist slant. I'm alright, thanks. I'm just a puppet man.
Yeah, cool. So, what are we doing?
The second question is, has the pandemic impacted you or your business? And how have you adapted to survive?
I have 2 children of my own and a stepson to provide for, so it's not an option for me not to earn money. So I adapted immediately. I took it seriously straight away, and within a week or 2 I was working in a supermarket. I went from playing the lead role in the West End to stacking shelves at a supermarket. Did that for a couple of months. And gradually I was finding out other ways to supplement my income. I adapted a large wardrobe in my son's bedroom into a sound studio, just got a decent microphone, a bit of soundproofing, and have managed to record a bit of radio, audio drama in there through clever adapted digital means. I've done drama teaching, acting, teaching and masterclasses over Zoom with drama schools in America and England. Early on in the process as well, it's worth mentioning I had COVID in March, a very strong case. I didn't need to go to hospital, but I had an extreme cough. But now, unbelievably, I'm in a theatre job for a Harold Pinter play, Betrayal at the Bath Theatre, who are bravely and very safely following all the government guidelines, trying out this small play just for a limited run to see how they can do it with COVID-safe audiences, and it's been a huge success. But it ends this Saturday, and next week I'm back to square one with everyone else. My first idea is I'm going to try to learn how to train as a bus driver, because they're still going.
I moved to a completely new city in a relatively new country. Being an up and down road, obviously there were times when I felt creative and I was doing virtual duets with a friend from Perth.
I had a dream my life would be so different from this hell I live in.
As well as this Lego stop motion video that you heard me sing on.
Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue and grey. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul. Shadows all
Yeah, it has impacted me, I guess, mentally a lot, thinking about, you know, am I in the right industry? You know, that was the initial questions. But then seeing other people's projects and getting creative myself and seeing that you can still impact people literally just by stuff you do in your house, that kind of made me realize again why I'm here and why I do what I do.
And how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now.
All the jobs stopped. The auditions changed, because normally there's a physical audition. You do an audition with 40 other people for the same job. Right now it's an online, it's a self-tape audition, and it can be around 200 people that do the audition for your job. So the work is slim. I adapt by creating my own things. So when I was in Germany and it started to happen, I wrote a short film which we shot last month in Germany, and we are now working on the edit. So I am in a TV movie now here in Holland. I have 2 lines. I will take what I can.
The pandemic has ruined my itinerary for my travels this year. I wanted, of course, to go to many film festivals and new kino cabarets, make new movies and network with new people. But since this short film scene is very versatile, they have migrated online. So we are now doing lots of these greeting videos to be there and not to be there, to be or not to be.
For Drama Victoria as an organisation, what we provide throughout the year, we offer a lot of professional development, and obviously they all had to be cancelled. We've held a lot of Zoom meetings. The Committee of Management really banded together and developed a lot of resources to send out to teachers. We also had some collaborative Zoom meetings where teachers just shared resources. It's actually been really beautiful to see the collegiality and generosity of drama educators coming together in this time. And sharing their experiences on how to use digital platforms to engage students.
I was a huge fan of Drama Victoria's annual conference this year. It was online and it was absolutely spectacular. I had a little session in a breakout room, and there was one horror story from a teacher who was on Zoom. The students weren't allowed to have their video on. So she was teaching drama to a blank screen. That sounds like an impossible task.
Yeah, absolutely challenging. Some schools have had just a no camera rule. That's been the other struggle that I've had this year. Is I always knew that I loved teaching, but I didn't actually realise how much the kids and being in that classroom with them actually filled my soul. Having this distance between us has been really hard for me, because the joy that I get is being in the class and seeing spending time with the kids. So.
My first response was fight. So I jumped very quickly into what can I do? How can I fix this? How can I make this work? How can I get other people work? How can I keep students engaged in a screen format? And I'd never used Zoom before. There was a lot of scrambling to get people online to go, what does this button do? And what happens if we do this? Oh, that's fun. How can we incorporate that?
Lights, camera, action!
Oh, for a music fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention. Oh, God.
And then we started to get really creative, I guess, and the challenge of then going, how do you engage young minds who are struggling themselves? Find a way for them to be expanding their own capacity as young actors, but also just igniting some joy. Some of the students took themselves outside and found tree branches and created a makeshift helmet out of cardboard, and then they became Macduff. So even though we were all at home, still finding those little tricks and techniques to feel like we're entering the world of Henry V, or that we are on the battlefield at Agincourt, or we're in the castle at Dunsinane, using virtual backgrounds or them designing their own images. And yeah, so I think just kind of understanding what do we have, what tools are available, and then what are we trying to achieve, and putting it together like a cake.
So I can see the Australian Shakespeare Company's theatre education programme offers Australia's most extensive and dynamic lineup of in-school workshops and industry-run courses.
Very quickly we realised that the schools still wanted that support when they're teaching these beautiful plays. I worked out a way to redirect what we had, so rather than it being a two-hander or a three-hander that we might take into the school, we would have a cast of 6 or 8, or in some cases a full 14.
So we've been 100% fully online since the last week of term 1, so the end of March, basically. We've been running for 7 years before that face-to-face, but we had to move everything online. Pretty much that day the Premier said all the non-essential businesses are closing, we went online the next day. And so that means we've obviously got 2 physical spaces that aren't being used. I think pre-COVID, people were really hesitant about online voice lessons. They thought they were maybe inferior to face-to-face. But I've now got some students who don't want to come back to face-to-face. They're going to stay online because it's obviously so convenient. And at the same time, it's kind of been great because we've obviously unfortunately lost some students because they've lost their jobs, particularly the ushers and the flight attendants and those kinds. But we've actually picked up a lot of students as well who are bored in isolation and they want to pick up a skill, and we can do it remotely. We've got international students, we've got interstate students, and it's just something we haven't been able to do before that COVID has kind of given us in a strange way.
I was instantly worried about the thousands of people in our industry who lose their livelihood. And so I said, right, we've got to do something. And I approached Josh Robson, and he's incredible, and he's a real mover and shaker in the industry. And, as both a performer and producer, he really knows how to make stuff work. And he said, yep, let's do it. And Lights Up on the Arts was born. And it was just insane. The vibe, none of us had been in a theatre for a couple of months at least, and there we were suddenly in a space where we could watch a live band performing and live singers singing right in front of us.
I was just lunged into this period of uncertainty. I, like many people, said 2020 is going to be my year. I'm going to release my debut feature documentary. It's going to get out there into the world. It's going to make a mark. And somewhere along the line between, one festival getting cancelled, another one getting cancelled, another one getting cancelled, you realize, oh, this is actually outside of my control. It was very challenging to accept. I'm sure there's a lot of filmmakers out there who have kind of been going through the same thing. They had this dream of doing something in a cinema, having those face-to-face reactions, and now it's kind of transitioned to this new way of experiencing media online. And then the second thing is getting back in touch with my love for animation. A lot of these amazing Czech animators like Jan Svankmajer, Jiří Bara, Jiří Trinka, they made the ordinary extraordinary. And I thought, well, I can't have the command of a big film set right now for obvious reasons. What's something I can do just myself with a few merry participants online? Well, I can write an animated film.
Shot 1, take 1. Action. These aren't the drops you're looking for. Can someone please get a frame line for the Rocky Road operator? Oh, hi. My name's Joshua Belinfonte, and I made Sugar Wars.
It was just such a fun exercise of just thinking back, what are my favorite films? Oh, I used to love crime fiction. Let's do something on that. I'll do something on candy bars in the time of crime fiction, and what happens when the cinemas close. Oh, well, the candy bar comes alive, kind of like Toy Story. Let's do something about candy bars reenacting their favorite crime fiction films. Great. Focus on the process rather than the product, the end result, and just make stuff and just be really in love with that process of making. And then it's a bonus if you're able to screen it and possibly build something that's moving and getting bigger like a snowball, so that you do have something of a following that maybe wouldn't even have happened if you were screening your films in cinemas.
As I said, I've done nothing but perform for 20 years, and then in March, my work didn't just go down, it completely shut down, as did pretty much everyone I know. Because it was everyone, there's this sense of we're all in it together. And as soon as the work all shut down and disappeared, I've gone from performer to labourer, grinding rust off metal poles, removing a prickly pear, building pallet racking, building a shed. Just the variety has been amazing. Not much performing, a bit of performing. I've been doing some online performing, online corporate training work, a bit of online singing telegrams, crashing people's Zoom birthday parties.
I mean, I've been lucky that I haven't been ill, but as you say, a lot of my work, especially my writing, is writing for Christmas, and pretty much the companies I write for have decided to postpone that. So none of the companies I write for, including Greenwich, have decided to do Panto this year. There are some companies who are doing socially distanced theatre shows, but the thing about Panto here in the UK is often it's so popular that it helps pay for the rest of the year for a lot of smaller companies. That money that they make, helps them do smaller shows, shows that are a bit more serious, that might not get bigger audiences. And of course, without it, they're suffering. And of course, the performing side as well. Like, there's been, in lockdown, there was no theatre. I mean, I was lucky that I had some writing to do.
Oh, yes, it has. Yes, absolutely. There's some days that are just really difficult to get out of bed, to be honest. Like, it's depressing. Since the first Melbourne lockdown, everyone was at their homes and super frustrated. And it actually started off with me hosting these online parties, and they kind of evolved from just having drinks and dancing together and doing a bit of karaoke together. And then from that, a friend that was comedian decided her own online comedy club called Unmuted Comedy. Since first Melbourne lockdown, I was like, I am not having any more of this lockdown. I'm going to South Australia. So I'm actually doing an artist in residency in South Australia now. And because there's not a lot of virus around, we can go out and we can do comedy in real life. So last night I actually did my first ever comedy in front of people.
Yeah, so it's trying to work around the rules and legality of it all. So opening up my art studio and actually being able to see a human being stay 2 meters apart and they can look at my art rather than on a website. If you live locally to me in Manchester, good old England, I can still teach a class one-to-one because I've done my risk assessments or whatever, but I live opposite a green. There's 30 houses that live around a green. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a Thursday applause for the NHS and key workers, and I sent bits of choreography out to my neighbours on WhatsApp and they all joined in. And then I started teaching on the green, so I'll be teaching this afternoon. So we put our yoga mats down 2 meters apart and do some exercise, which is slightly influenced by dance and Pilates. And I've kept that going since the beginning, since the first week of lockdown. And that's kept spirits high. So that's a positive thing of the pandemic, because I would never have thought in rainy Manchester to try and do a class outside.
We have definitely been affected by the pandemic. I would say a lot of the usual work in wardrobe departments, and that's across the board this year in Melbourne, has sort of dried up. Shows have been postponed or cancelled throughout the year. So I guess a lot of the things that I would have been working on either got downsized, like the State School Spectacular. We had to change the format of the show that we were working on and pivot to like a at-home like Zoom format as opposed to a stadium format. So I still had to kind of coordinate and figure out how to get costuming to our principal cast, but without fittings and without getting to see them. So there was a lot of costume by mail in a way. Or there was an opera that I was booked to design for August this year, which has been pushed back to 2021. I know I pivoted mid-year and I started making a lot of masks. I put my sewing skills to use that way, masks for the COVID effort. Murray has been very busy during lockdown, sort of creating a whole new set of characters for his cabaret puppetry act. And he's been keeping me very busy because while I haven't had that much on, I've been making outfits for his various marionettes. And it's been good because I don't have to wear a mask when I'm around them and I could work on them during lockdown.
The pandemic. I was in Japan when it hit, and after I returned, I thought, oh, this might last a few weeks. So there's likely to be no cruises for a while and no puppet shows. What can I do? Over the past 30 years, I've had a growing list of marionettes that I thought, well, one day when I had some spare time, I will focus in my workshop and I will build some new puppets. My first project, I thought, well, I've always wanted to build a new violinist marionette. So that was the first thing that I started on. And that took me a couple of weeks, and the lockdown continued, and then it continued week after week. So I moved on to another puppet till eventually I had so many puppets that I more or less got a new show, but a new show without an audience or a venue to perform it in.
In lockdown this year, I started a small business born out of a combination of necessity. I lost my job and also comfort. I love to paint, I love to draw. It's something that I think I've always gravitated towards in times of my life where I felt lost or confused. I felt quite bereft and sad at the state of the arts industry as it crumbled around myself and my peers, and I turned to painting as a way to distract myself. I guess it was a bit of a live to fight another day mentality. The duality of it was also an incredibly exciting time in my life as well. My sister was pregnant with her first child. I was about to become an auntie for the first time. And I just thought, I'm gonna throw myself into making the best present for my nephew that I can possibly make. And so I made a dinosaur alphabet painting. The original is in his room, but this is the print. And I sell this print on my website now. And so I contacted a local fine art studio and they turned it into a print for me. I put it online expecting to sell maybe one or two, and I was overwhelmed with the number of sales I had in the first week. It feels really cool. It's something that was born out of a time when I felt quite confused and disconnected from myself and my industry, that something quite joyful came out of all of that.
Now this year, we were supposed to tour that show, but it didn't happen because of, well, I'll give you a guess of why it might not have happened this year. We've spent the last 6 months working towards an idea, and we've actually done our first performance of it now, where we have made a version of the show specifically for online streaming. So I've worked with Ingenious Fools, who's my producer, and then Berk's Nest became involved, and they directed me and helped me. They're fantastic at, helping your ideas reach their potential.
So 2020 has been a rough year for the performing arts. super rough. I don't need to tell anyone that. And its impacts are likely going to be felt for a long time yet as we hopefully move out of the restrictions and towards whatever comes next. What's been really interesting for us at the Arts Wellbeing Collective is that so many of the issues were already present in the industry, and they've just really been amplified by this time that we're currently in. So there aren't so much many new problems, it's more that the old problems have gotten so big that no one can look away from them anymore. So for the Arts Wellbeing Collective, we've been very busy this year. We've seen an increase in awareness of the importance of mental health and wellbeing across the sector, which is creating more positive actions, which is really heartening to see. We've also seen an increase in demand for our services and engagement with them, which is great. That's awesome. We're so glad that this program was launched a few years ago and was in a position to be able to contribute back to the performing arts community during this time rather than trying to make it in this time from scratch. Like everyone, we've been adapting to working away from our normal environments, doing all of our normally very in-person work online, and spending that time really listening to folks all the way across the industry about how we can come back better and thrive beyond this time.
Yes, unfortunately for me and the rest of our company, we were out in Australia. So we spent January in Melbourne, February and into March in Sydney, and then headed across to Perth in March. Once we'd arrived into Perth, we had a 10-day holiday period and were then due to open. But unfortunately, within that 10 days, the decision had to be taken by the theatre and our management to cancel the show. One of the things I did fairly early on was to create a vlog series based on Warhorse and the 3 years of my experience on the show, which was for schools. And so I created a 6-episode video vlog series looking at all the aspects of the show from its creation, the experience of being an actor in the show, the rehearsal process, the design process, the performance process, all the aspects of puppetry, and then just the practicalities of what it's like being an actor touring not only in the UK, which I'm used to doing, I've done for many, many years, but also then to start touring around the world. Now, I'm just in the early stages of development with a writer of a new one-man show. It's the one vehicle that could be financially viable in a socially distanced theatrical world. And certainly talking to the theatre contacts that I know in the UK, this is exactly the kind of stuff that they're looking for through the spring up to summer next year. Warhorse has a cast of 34 and a touring company of 70. There's no way on this earth that Warhorse will be back in our theatres before next summer at the very, very earliest.
To be honest, COVID has had some advantages in the voice world. So that's been fantastic to kind of have the industry open up their perspective to look at talent outside of their local area. That's been fascinating because I've been getting more American auditions as well. In fact, I've started taking classes in dialects. I'm working with Eliza Jane Schneider now, who's the woman of 1,000 voices in LA, and doing her conservatory program because, yeah, the boundaries have stopped. And in fact, in every case since COVID has hit, when these people who are working actively and even casting directors have come on board, they're more accepting of talent over Source Connect because now we've had to do it. And it's now a standard. Once upon a time, you had to be in LA or New York City to get a good job in America, so to speak. But now they're, especially with the changes in perspective around diversity and casting, and they're looking more outside of the little bubble that they're in, and that's excellent for us.
Something that we found over lockdown was that there was this sort of bubble created where everything went online for a while, and we're partnered with a studio in LA and they went into lockdown even before us. So when we went into lockdown in Australia, they'd been in lockdown for a couple of months. Now we'd already been running online courses for 2 or 3 years, just a few, just a percentage of the courses, like 5% of what we do would be online. But they were in lockdown, and so they'd already gone over in LA into delivering everything online. So when we caught up and we went into lockdown, they'd already pioneered a whole bunch of stuff that then we could piggyback on and learn from and add to with what we already knew from running courses online. And we also, as an institution, we have teachers in, Canada, New York, LA, and here in Australia. But we found that there was just like a massive surge of interest, and I stopped counting after a while, but we had participants from well over 20 countries. I'd be teaching people in Sweden, Norway, France, Italy, Singapore, China, from the States, from all over Australia, some people from the UK, from the north in the UK, from New Zealand as well. It was crazy, but we've also seen that sort of bubble is it's gone. It's vanished now as various countries have gone back to opening up, or maybe they're just looking more inward. I don't know. But that's been really interesting, because there was a moment there when everything just felt global. Everything you were doing, it felt like the conversation was the same all over the world, and it was fascinating. And seeing people connect and be in these classes together and be on exactly the same page was amazing. Yeah, and I wonder if we can retain any of that now that we're going to go back to being more locally focused. Who knows? It's interesting.
Yeah, well, prior to COVID, I never would have actually even considered teaching weaving online. For me, it's a very spiritual and cultural experience, and I just was very closed-minded to the ability to impart those aspects. But I was teaching with something else that I do, and so that class, all of our workshops had to move online. So I didn't really have a choice in the matter. Weaving was the next thing we had to learn, and I had to find a way to teach it online. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that people picked it up much faster than in person. So
great.
That gave me the idea to do it online more regularly. And so in July, I actually started my own business separate to the Deadly Collective, which is a collective of artists. So the bread and butter of my own personal business is now basket weaving, which is fantastic. I send out people a kit with, this is paper raffia, and you get a little package in the mail with everything that you need to start your weaving journey. So this particular style is open to men, women, and people who don't identify as a rigid gender, and also it is open to Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. And the great thing about these weaving workshops that I guess I'd really like to share with people is you're not just helping me, an emerging Aboriginal artist. 10% of all the ticket sales actually support a local Aboriginal association who are the custodians of an Indigenous protected area. So that money goes into land management, cultural training and education. We've started our women's weaving circle here on the Gold Coast. And also because of some of the cultural concepts that I share, a portion of money also goes to a community in the Northern Territory. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to share that around during these times where those places might be suffering from the lack of tourism at the moment.
So obviously, event photography, you can't do event photography during a pandemic. You can't do portrait photography during a pandemic, and these were my two biggest things. As you can imagine, I have a lot of free time, pretty much home all day, every day, not doing anything. I just go out for a walk, keep a little bit of exercise, but that's it. So I thought I have to do something. If I don't want to go crazy, I have to do something. So I started this little project thinking, I want to really improve my Photoshop skills. And I thought, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could give myself a challenge.
Well, we definitely were. We had a show on in March. So we had to cancel the second half of our season, which was obviously really difficult and something that obviously no one ever wants to experience, having done all the work. We then took the project online. So we luckily had already recorded one of our first shows. We got our incredible editor to put it together really, really quickly, and we did a live streaming. And it kind of just took off. I posted it in a whole load of Shakespeare forums, and this was right at the beginning. So people hadn't really started putting stuff online yet. And it ended up having like 30,000 people tuned into some part of it, which is insane. Like, we never, you know, our shows do not perform to 30,000 people. We'd managed to do something and reach a whole new audience. We had people in Europe. There was this tango group that got up at like 2 a.m. in Canada to watch. So there was something really exciting about that. And then from that is where we kind of came up with the idea of the sonnet. Okay, well, what else should we do? Like, what about a sonnet a day? What if we try and pull together a whole heap of actors we know, and actually ended up being a whole heap of actors we didn't know.
This amazing initiative during lockdown is coming to an end, so I thought I'd celebrate, get out of my activewear, out of my pyjamas, to read for you Sonnet 132, maybe half of my pyjamas. Thine eyes I love, and they as pitying me, knowing thy heart torments me with disdain.
You heard the bells, it's 6 p.m, and that means that it's time for Melbourne Shakespeare Company's Sonnet a Day.
I produce children's or family entertainment. So we sort of, with the pandemic, or with COVID, we saw it roll across the planet slowly in our business. So I had shows scheduled. We had the first one cancelled in Singapore and then Malaysia and then Hong Kong. And then here in the UK, we were the first to close our industry on the 16th of March. Although here in the UK, we're at what we call stage 4 for theatre openings, which is you can do performances with social distancing. It means you can only put about 30% of the house on sale. Most theatres are not opening. A handful have started to say they're opening. NIMAX Theatres, which owns 6 theatres on the West End, have decided to reopen. I understand they'll lose less money by reopening than remaining closed. They are pulling seats out, and they have negotiated with Actors Equity to be able to pro-rata. I'm bringing my own show back next week. We are doing it social distance, so we only have 120 tickets on sale. It's e-ticketing, it's hand sanitizer, it's mask wearing, it's temperature checks, it's pre-ordering your drinks online. I'm looking forward for my own show in front of an audience next week. I'm even talking about it now, I'm feeling tears in my eyes. I'm sure we can all be in tears, the actors included, when we have that first audience there.
Thank you has to be to all of you, our audience, who have booked your tickets today. Thank you so much. Without you, we wouldn't be here performing and doing what we love best. So please keep buying tickets and please keep supporting the arts. Thank you so much.
I collected, from the day Oscar, our son, was born, I collected every shoe he ever wore until he was 18. And on his 18th birthday, when I talk about installations, I put these shoes out in a long trail for him when he woke up to come down the stairs and follow his...
From his bedroom to the kitchen.
To the dining room. And 97 pairs anyway. And the idea was that I was going to draw them each, and I wanted to make a book for his 21st birthday, which is not this December, next December. But I'm going to do, so I'm busy during COVID drawing these 97 pairs of shoes, which I probably wouldn't be able to do unless it was for unless COVID had struck, because I'd be running around doing other things.
Well, there's a little bit more there. She's also co-curator of the Think and Thank Garden and is instrumental in making this project happen.
John became seriously ill a couple of years ago. Well, I got to the point where I asked him what his last wishes were, and he said to finish the Think and Thank Garden, which is what this is. I'll tell you one little story. When I first met John, he said to me, "Now, Christina, if you see me sitting in a chair staring into space, I'm not doing nothing." He said, "I'm working, I'm thinking." And when he was very ill, he came up with the idea. He read about Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey, isn't it? Yeah. And where in abbeys and cathedrals it's traditional to, as you walk in, you'll see all sorts of here lies such and such, and in Poets Corner they have a particular area where all these amazing people have been buried.
Finally in July this year there was a little opening in the lockdown, and we were able to lay the letter here in Reen Farm. And the letter was written in 1846 and published in the Times in London on Christmas Eve. It described what was happening on this peninsula, South Reen. He describes graphically as to what was happening, what I refer to as on Baltimore, the Great Hunger, often described outside of Ireland as the Great Famine.
And he came up with the idea of putting it in a Tate building, was that Henry Tate had this huge collection of art depicting mainly a lot of British colonial events. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing on depicting what was happening in Ireland, which was part of Britain in those days. This is basically what we're talking about. So there's the Tate.
Grew out of a project where I was invited into the Gothenburg Biennale in Sweden. It was an old power station, very reminiscent of Melbourne on the Docklands. I created a 40-foot container based on the Tate Modern, and it was covered in Corten steel. And using a sea container, it was able to transport the artwork, and it was exhibited outside the museum. And because the Corten 40-foot container couldn't fit up our laneway here, I ended up making it out of glass.
So now we're in the gutter.
I'm going to read you a thing. Poem by Stephen Spender, called The Truly Great, which for me refers to John and what he's created here, and apart from his other art. Then I'm going to read you a letter which concerns the history of the place where we are. I think continually of those who were truly great.
There are 2 hillocks before you can see the sea, and I used to say to John, wouldn't it be lovely to have a window on the sea? And of course, John being John, and he's wonderful like that, he does make my dreams come true. The next thing I know, he created this. It is just showing off today on the sound of the sea. It's John's, what I call John's throne here. John wanted to go to art college. He's got 6 siblings. His dad worked very hard, but he just worked in a quarry, so they didn't earn a lot of money. And John wanted to go to university or go to college, and his mother said, well, we can't afford it, John. And unbeknown to John, she'd seen on the side of a milk carton a Win-A-Wish competition. And she'd emptied the milk carton, cleaned it out, and put, her wish was for her son to go to university. And she wrapped it in Christmas paper and sent it off, and she won. She was picked. So the cow's shape is a bit like this milk carton. So although people might think it's odd to sort of say, well, his mum represented as a cow, but it's all the love and devotion and the help that she gave portrayed in his work. And the man lifting cows is his mum and dad. I mean, how wonderful to be able to place one's art in such an extraordinary environment.
Tremendously. As far as the lab, like the online, the actual physical class, we got shut down literally in a few days. And then they said, we'll open up in a week, in a month, in 3 months. And now we've been shut down for pretty much a year. We shut down in March. We won't open up till January. That forced me to go online and start doing stuff like YouTube videos and online classes. And I was not computer illiterate, I just don't care about it. I just push the on button and,
Hi, I'm Peter Carlos, and I want to welcome you to a series of short clips we'll be making to talk to you about.
So I got all these amazing people trying to help me, but then when we went into stage 4 lockdown, then it was me at home. So I had to figure out how to do all this stuff. And I'm learning how to do it, because you'll go crazy if you don't learn to adapt.
Make a sound as you work and relax.
Stop this from drifting off. This is your number one enemy. Up here.
I called it the Method 2.0, and I'll tell you why. It's not the method, it's not what they teach at Lee Strasberg. It's a blend of Lee and Stella and stuff I've heard over the years. So like we do, it's 70% the same, but then we do all these other things and I try and do as much as I can to make it practical. We did about literally it was 6 months worth of free classes online.
The huge challenge was, oh my God, we can't teach. How do we tell a young 18, 19 to a 20-year-old individual who's committed not just by time but finance to say, we can still teach you acting, we just can't do it on stage or in a classroom at the present time. That was very challenging, but I think we adapted very, very quickly, and we used what we have at our fingertips in the arts, and that's our imagination. Some of the things we did, some unique programs like an online masterclass with Alex Proyas, Samantha Lang, Monica Zanetta, Megan Riarkis, Shannon Murphy. The other thing that we did in the period was that we developed, like many institutions, an In Conversation series, but we did something a little bit different. It was about the host, Hugh Jackman, David Wenham, David Collins, and the students. So we had the students involved in every In Conversation in Q&A, where it was the students got to ask those amazing artists, successful artists, about their lives, about their careers and things. So it kept it in a classroom situation. And I think that was really unique and really wonderful. And it was one of the huge pluses that we had that allowed the students, they felt engaged, they felt like they mattered at a time where the arts in the media maybe not getting as much attention as it should.
In March of this year, I was doing a live event, which was Shorts Relief, which was a film festival to raise money for the bushfire relief. And that was held at the Capitol Theatre in Melbourne, and I was the director and the producer for that. And of course, at that point, we started hearing the news about COVID. And we were supposed to be filming a mini-series, which is part of the Shakespeare Republic universe, called Dark Arcadia. And of course, that went away because that is something that would be very hard to do in these current circumstances. I suddenly thought, well, Shakespeare Republic, its format in the prior 2 seasons, which is one actor on camera doing a monologue, maybe we could look at changing that for this current circumstance, but do a whole season focused on Shakespeare's characters in lockdown during the 2020 pandemic. And off we go, and I start putting out the casting briefs and all the rest of it, and we got over 100 actors from around the world. It's all been done remotely. None of us have been in the same room at the same time. I rehearsed everybody on Zoom and then directed them on Zoom.
I first trained in voiceover in 2015 and then never did anything with it. 5 years later, I'm finally doing something about it and making it part of my practice. I'm learning how to run my practice more like a business. As much as I was saying, I'm not a hobbyist, I'm a professional, I actually feel like I'm learning more how to run it as a business, slowly, but without this slowdown of everything, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So this is where I do all my recording stuff. Oh, I'm in the way. Let's go. Oh! And so we're in here.
Oh, wow.
It's quite spacious. I've got a full big like IKEA shelves in there. That has all my, acting and writing stuff. And then we've baffled it all with a bunch of old doonas. I close the door, you immediately get this clearer sound.
I'm self-employed. It's a fairly unpredictable way to live anyway. The shoot's completely dried up for 4 or 5 months, but I've got an edit suite here which helped get some money trickling in. I haven't been swimming in money. I never swim in money. I'm a filmmaker, and money is, it is what it is. It's a tool. In March we were due to grade a short film that I've written and directed, but then lockdown happened, and I really like wildlife and stuff, and outside the back of my house there's lots of trees and lots of birds. So I thought it could be quite funny to make like a wildlife documentary in the vein of David Attenborough and the BBC thing, but instead of a well-spoken and experienced broadcaster like Mr. Attenborough, instead it's just some bloke called Daz from Manchester who does it instead, and he talks about birds and that.
So during the COVID-19 lockdown, we've been able to have a look at all sorts of common birds seen around gardens in the UK, including wood pigeons, blackbirds, these dickheads, blue tits, collared doves, crows, they're f***ing mints, and long-tailed tits. So in this final episode, we're going to take a look at house sparrows, the elusive goldfinch, f***ing pretty that, innit? And we're also going to take a look at some squirrels. I know they're not birds, so don't give me shit, but you know, it's my programme, so off you f***. So welcome to Daz's world of birds and squirrels. Keep your eye on the gap between the trees just under the sun. There he goes. Oh, he made it. Some planet Earth shit that. You're welcome. Right, anyway, let's crack on.
So just to be clear, this is not Matt John's work. I got inspired by his wildlife film and got the camera out. Check this out. This is a crested pigeon. This is an expecting myna. Oh, that is magical. Just magical.
Of course, within seconds, my entire career that I've built crumbled, including my business, Sash Entertainment. So pretty quickly had to figure out a way to keep the business alive, and I put most of my energy into that during lockdown. We moved online and started a kids TV show called Sash TV on YouTube. TV. Quickly realised that market was saturated and started offering digital or virtual discos.
Hi everyone and welcome to your absolutely Sash virtual disco. My name is Sarah and I'm here to get this disco party started. Hey Andrew, are you ready to get this party started?
The third question. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of your creative industry?
I'm optimistic. Look, I mean, the money situation is always pretty dire. One of the reasons it's so exciting is because of the International Actors Ensemble, which is a company I was part of the forming of back 5 years ago when we all met in London at the Globe. And even before the lockdown and the quarantine, I was Skyping actors in, like Jonathan from the US and Sergio from Mexico and Carol from Brazil and Valentina from London. They were, opening up Skype, plugging the computer into a big flat screen television, plonking it on top of the piano. What was that? Are you wearing toilet paper?
Yes.
Is that the rise of your...
It is in high demand. It is a very expensive mask here in Melbourne.
I was going to say, you've got toilet paper in the car. Very, very wise.
This is a fantastic way of keeping the company together, of keeping us creative, of keeping us doing things.
I'm going to say optimistic. Obviously things are going to be different, but just seeing what people have created in this time, using technology, using other means, and still reaching out to people and still inspiring people through art, I can't see us dying.
I'm a little bit on the fence at the moment. I believe there will be a huge appetite for it when it comes back. People will need theatre, performance and comedy as a catharsis and something that will help them process what they've been going through for the last year. However, we've got the government telling us to retrain as different professions now. The British public, I believe, I can't speak for the public around the world, but the British public, I believe, will absolutely revel in the dismantling of the arts because they resent anybody who likes their job and they resent happiness in all forms. There's a nice little takeaway.
Yes, I think I am optimistic. I don't sound it, I know, but I think I am. I'm just very serious about it, which is, or it makes me serious because it's unprecedented, and it's such a cliche, that word, unprecedented, everyone's using it, but it is. And it's sort of, no one knows how it's going to be. So the universality of uncertainty is kind of, it's not like a war's going to finish and we go back to building. It's kind of like this, what will this new Jerusalem be? What is it going to be? Will it just be small shows. We can't do Shakespeare's for a while because that's too many people on stage. So there are so many things to consider. My gut feeling is, as I say, I don't think it'll just be press play and everything goes back. I think we're looking at a few years of readjusting. That's the worry. And they said with the Spanish flu, that was 36 months before it started to look like anything recognizable again.
I'm ambivalent. There's a lot of people struggling at the moment. Actors, crew, I know freelancers who are having to sell their equipment to make ends meet. Things are already beginning to adapt. Set etiquette is changing, and as far as like my own films go, it's kind of hard to get money anyway, and I think now it's going to become even harder.
That's a very difficult one. Because I've made my living out of the cruise ships for the past 14 years, I really don't know where that industry is going to go, especially for niche acts such as puppeteers. I would hope that it's going to open a whole new world of entertainment. I think for all of us that work in the creative entertainment industry, we all hope it'll come back bigger and stronger than where we left it.
So I suppose short answer, yeah, I am optimistic, but I'm also a bit hesitant to put in my own money as an independent producer into touring my own works.
Neither pessimistic nor am I optimistic. You know, we have a second wave in Europe right now with all the pandemic going on, and lots of lockdown will happen pretty soon. So for many people that have a need to go outside and do stuff, they're suffering and they are revolting now, and they're like making demonstrations against the politics of lockdown. So there's lots of things happening, and I lean back, enjoy all of Netflix. I watched complete season 1 to 9 of a series called 24.
I'm optimistic because me and my wife, we saved. I will just keep creating, finishing the things that I have here that I didn't finish yet. But I see a lot of things happening online. So yeah, people are getting really creative in these days, and I am hopeful for us.
Absolutely insane. She's new to Darwin, so please be gentle. Wink. Put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Eve Lynch!
I was wondering if anyone had any suggestions on dating in Darwin. Good. I heard a don't do it.
I know I'm allowed to be pessimistic, but I think up in Darwin is such a different vibe to what you guys are going through down in Melbourne and the rest of the world. 20 or 30% of the Darwin population has increased with people coming in from other states. There's no housing left. There's so many people up here. This is supposed to be the off season because it's coming into the wet season. And usually everyone leaves and goes back down south, but Darwin's just packed. Like we had, my first ever stand-up gig and we had 90 people and it's a sold-out run.
Oh, I'm still a hopeful. I'm still the optimist. Drama and theatre subjects, we rely on our enrolment numbers to keep the subjects going. A lot of schools will have compulsory arts in 7 and 8, and that's where we build interest. And then you get into year 9 and 10 and it's electives. I don't know if you've heard about Monash University at the moment, the theatre there. They're closing it. Come on, please. Please rethink this. There's hopefully another way that we can go to keep the theatre industry going, even at the university level. So, if students aren't selecting the art subjects in high school, that will have ramifications on the new arts workforce as well. We don't just teach acting, we teach lighting, I teach sound, I teach costume design, I teach set design. It's not just about the performance. And that's one thing I stress to students is you don't just have to be interested in acting to be interested in the theatre.
I just want to take a moment to congratulate you on your chosen vocation. There's a lot of people that think that drama teachers especially are just people who failed in the industry, but that is completely not true. They're some of the most talented people I know, and I just want to make that clear.
Working with kids is the most rewarding job.
The human race, as long as we survive, probably haven't got long left, but as long as we are around, We do need this stuff. Theatre, stories, church for atheists, communion. We are more than food and clothes and mobile phones. There is something very important about art institutions. Even people who very rarely go to them, if they lived in a world where they weren't around, they'd feel it. So I'm ultimately optimistic, but I'm prepared for a very long road. You just got to take it 1 week at a time. My dear departed father used to say, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time.
Can I sit on the fence on that one? Can I be pessimistically optimistic? I think personally, 22 years of being an actor builds resilience. You just can't not have theatre. It just means how many theatres are we going to lose in the meantime? How many of them are going to have to shut down? But that doesn't mean, even if every theatre shut down and every actor gave up and became a plumber, things will spring again anew.
I don't like to call myself either way. I think I'm more realistic, really. It is not unbeatable.
There is a huge amount of content creation going on in the streaming world, and there is a lot of actors out there creating their own content. There's still something to be said about going to a cinema, or a theatre for that matter. The doors close, the lights go down, and you are purely there with your imaginative mind to believe and to be transported to another world. In its various forms, whether it be a canvas, oil painting, dance, concert, a theatre production, or cinema, whether a huge blockbuster Marvel film or a well thought out documentary such as this, film festivals, they'll always be relevant. And I think the arts define where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. COVID is just another story.
Struggling to comprehend where I've been. Legs of lead, dust on molten skin. Whispers of rage and denial, ringing in my ears all the while. And pressed into sheets of acid rain.
I've always known that we were going to be and I've always looked at the trajectory of the world and life and how it's going. I've been like, oh, we're and I've kind of been waiting for us to be like completely so then everyone's like, oh yeah, we are actually so yeah, we're totally I'm positive we're I don't even have a job that I can go into now because there's no hospitality, so I'm like totally
Where there's a will, there's a way, and there are too many talented people backstage and on stage, and everyone wants to get back to doing what they love, so I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Definitely optimistic about my creativity.
Well, I'm optimistic about the new pathway in counselling. I think I'm going to be very busy.
I'm probably realistic.
I'm really optimistic.
There'll always be a way. People always want stories to be told. As a species, it's part of our very lifeblood.
I'm optimistic. I think by nature it's a very resilient industry and people love what they do and are very good at it.
If you want to stay in it and if you want it to be a part of your life, you have to be optimistic.
It is nothing new that the arts as an industry is battling.
I think there will always be a place for art. I think people will always crave it and need it. And so therefore it'll find a way. As cliche and lame as that can possibly sound, that's how I feel.
I think overall in this current climate, with the radical changes and movements that are happening around, for example, diversity, around sort of non-hierarchical structures, around fairer pay, around realistic expectations for actors in the acting industry in terms of the focus on communities and how communities are becoming sort of more at the forefront of theatre. I think overall those changes are going to be really good.
Overridingly, I'm pessimistic. I'm not enjoying the experience. It's had a decimating effect. I think the industry will lose a lot of very, very good, talented people who will never return. I have to also be optimistic though, because I'm always a glass half full kind of a guy, and we are creative people and we have to be creative. I've enrolled here in the UK as a trialist, the Hooth Oxford University trial in conjunction with AstraZeneca. They were looking for people particularly over the age of 60 who were active and fit and well and healthy and hadn't had the virus. So on Saturday I had my first injection.
Any side effects yet?
No.
What an amazing group of interesting, diverse and incredibly creative people. Times are tough. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is once in 100 years. We weren't expecting this. My industry, the acting industry, has stopped. I supplemented my income with hospitality work and being a premium brand ambassador. That stopped. I don't know what the future holds, but nobody else does either.
Thoughts on the wind.
So here I am outside the usual joint, ready to spend 5 hard-earned dollars on a delicious, well-made coffee. Delicious. That's worth $5. Which begs the question, what is art worth? You can't really put a value on it, it's subjective. It's different for everyone. But I think this documentary, even though you're still at home, you don't even have to go out, is worth the price of a coffee. See ya.
Everything perfectly normal.
Who died? I missed who died.
Grandma died. COVID-19, innit?
Talk, create, sleep.
Talk, create, sleep.
Talk, create, sleep.
Talk, create, sleep.
And now run into the ocean.